And Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. She is working on bipartisan legislation in the wake of that Florida shooting, which can be put before Congress ahead of next month's student rally in Washington on the 24th. Welcome. Good to see you, and I want to get to your efforts in just a moment. But first, your reaction to the president's comments there at CPAC. Do you have a clear sense of what he wants to see happen?
Yeah, good morning, Alex. I don't have a clear sense. I've been watching him all week. You know, I heard the clarifying comments from the White House this morning that he's just listening. I'm just doing that listening too, but I think we got to be careful and responsible in even the statements that we are making right now. You know, I'm married to a man that is one of the strongest supporters in this country of the Second Amendment, but I've also been in a real listening tour this week and also doing town halls with the kids. I've met with law enforcement, prosecutors, mental health, ACLU, parents, kids, all kinds of people, hearing what they're thinking, what's on their mind. I'm on that listening tour, and I'm being careful of what I'm saying. And I think the president needs to be careful too. I'm not playing to audiences, I'm listening.
So you bring up you and your husband, and I'm just going to have to ask about dinner table conversation, pillow talk, whatever it is. Do you two find common ground between you? You're right. His record is he's an advocate with the NRA. He's even been a board member, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correctly. So how do you guys come to an agreement? Do you? Or is it just constant battle, as it seems to be elsewhere in this country?
Well, you know, we have a history. We probably were more in a constant battle mode a little while ago. You know, I never really talked about what happened to me as a child until the last couple of years. And, you know, when I'm talking to these kids, I'm someone that had to hide in a closet, afraid that she could die because of a gun. So I know where they're coming from. And so what I think we've both gotten to a point is that I talk through with him what's happening. How do we protect? How do you know, my father shouldn't have had a gun. He had a mental health issue. How do you, and that's why I met with the ACLU. The mental health community is really, really concerned about that people not get stigmatized, and we need to remove that stigmatization. But because someone's depressed or suffering from anxiety doesn't make them a potential shooter. But we've got law enforcement officials that don't have the tools that they need if they deem that someone's a threat to themselves or to the community, that they can take that gun away, which we need to be able to do. And I also would tell you, as a family member, we have issues in this country. How do you? I have my baby sister I loved. I knew I knew that something could happen to her and she could hurt herself. I tried to make the laws work. Our laws are such that even when a family member, you don't know what that desperation is till you've been in it, trying to make sure someone's not going to harm themselves. And my sister's not here today, and I tried to save her. So how do you work through those things? And John and I will talk about some of those things. You know, we're never going to get total common ground, but as I'm listening to law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, parents, we're at least talking about how do you make the background check stronger.
Yeah. Do you think we are going to get stronger background checks? What is it that holds that up? Because it would seem to me that the American public right now is almost universally in support of stronger background checks. It seems there's a bipartisan push for stronger background checks to avoid situations like you personally had to deal with. I mean, you're candid about your father and things that he suffered from with mental illness. I mean, in that regard, why is there even a question?
Well, you know why I think something's going to change? I think these kids, they're not Republicans or Democrats. One more. And I want all of them out there. And by the way, I think Democrats and Republicans should stay out of their way, not try to make this partisan. Let the kids be the spokesmen and be the advocates. There's a bill right now in the House, the King-Thompson bill. I think that everybody's beginning to understand why the background checks aren't working, that there's not enough money that's been allocated to it. States aren't updating the information that needs to go in it. We got to refine the mental health issue. I'm hearing people say things that, you know, somebody said to me yesterday, we need to get into, go to past HIPAA and know what every medicine someone's on. That's not the answer. But we do need to, if someone's a threat, look, I have one of the only bipartisan gun bills. If someone has been convicted of domestic violence or stalking, and it's a dating partner, or they shouldn't be able to have access of a gun. If they've been convicted of a felony such as that, they shouldn't have access. There really is some common sense things that I think the mood is going to change. We've got problem solvers, 26 Republicans, 26 Dems, some really tough conversations. But I think people are trying not to go to the normal corners they're going to and really talk about what can we get through and what does law enforcement need? What does the school community need? Really listen and hear what can make a difference.
Well, I'm